in and of itself is a reward.
Well, and the investigations will be the big difference. I mean, the subpoena power now shifts to the majority party, and I think that's what we're going to read about every day is a different investigation.
You know, we will, and we'll hear the same blather on various networks, left-wing networks. It's going to be all the same except for one thing. We've already seen this movie. This man has been under, quote-unquote, Democratic investigation from almost the moment he stepped into the Oval Office. Yes. He has had the special counsel, the FBI, on his tail every minute, hounding him, trying to undercut him and subvert his administration. Are you kidding me? What do you think Nancy Pelosi can do that'll be more intimidating or annoying?
There's nothing she can do that's going to bring new evidence to the forefront. It just be to continue that story. And then it's harder for him to drive an agenda, which he has to do.
As the President of the United States, surely he's got the levers of power in both hands. He can't make life just as tough for the Democrats in the House as they make life for him? Come on.
Well, that's what he promised when I had an interview with him last week. That is what he promised, that he was preparing a devastating counterpunch, as he put it, for the Democrats based on releasing documents.
Wouldn't you?
Yes. I mean, but I think between Robert Mueller and the Democrats and this issue of time, that all of the airtime, all of the momentum will be sucked up by those two things. I think the president is going to have a very rocky year in 19.
You know, the country may have a rocky year or two, too. You know where President Xi is tonight? He's in Panama, ladies and gentlemen. He went from Buenos Aires to Panama. You know why? To do deals with the Panamanian government, and that is already underway. Some 26 deals and investments and takeovers in point of fact. We are looking at a takeover in a large part of Central America by the Chinese, and no one is paying attention in the national left-wing media. No one is paying attention in Congress. No one is paying attention in the Senate. And the White House had damn well better wake up to what is going on, because there is nothing benign about what is happening.
Well, not only that, they've already done that in Africa. There's a great Chinese efforts in Africa, investments. My sense is they're on the move. They've never been invaders before. They're now basically business invaders, and I think we have to always have our guard up and be careful.
It's kind of a Cold War, though, with a new enemy this time, not being the old Soviet Union, but now China everywhere around the world.
A lot smarter, a lot tougher.
Yeah.
Again, the point being, we are watching the takeover of infrastructure of the political direction of Latin America and South America, and it is time for the Trump administration to act.
Underfunded by us.
I'm sorry?
Underfunded by us.
Underfunded?
The Chinese.
Oh, and funded.
And funded.
Okay.
Yes.
Well, yes, over 30 years, trillions of dollars.
Trillions of dollars, absolutely.
It's nice that they can redistribute that. And we just thought redistribution was over, didn't we? With, oh, man. Ed Rollins, Michael Goodwin.
Thank you.
Always good to see you. Thanks so much. Be sure to vote in our poll tonight. The question is, do you believe the president's delay of higher tariffs on Chinese exports to the United States is a potential breakthrough in balancing trade and ending Chinese theft, or simply a deferral of an all-out confrontation over those issues with the Chinese? Cast your vote on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. We'd like to hear from you. Follow me on Twitter at Lou Dobbs. Like me on Facebook. Follow me on Instagram at Lou Dobbs Tonight. Up next, James Comey and Loretta Lynch will soon head for hearings on Capitol Hill. We can't wait for that, except for one part. We're not going to be able to see them or hear them, but we've got representatives at work in Washington, and I'm sure they'll do their part for us, the citizens of America. Next, former federal prosecutor, Sidney Powell. Stay with us. The body of former President George H.W. Bush is lying in state tonight at the Capitol Rotunda in Washington. His casket will be on public view until Wednesday morning's funeral at Washington National Cathedral. President Trump has designated Wednesday a national day of mourning. Former FBI Director James Comey reaching a deal with House Republicans, ending his subpoena fight. Comey will testify Friday behind closed doors. Comey tweeted this, quote, "Hard to protect my rights without being in contempt, which I don't believe in, so we'll sit in the dark." but Republicans agree I'm free to talk when done, and transcript released in 24 hours. This is the closest I can get to public testimony. Almost public. When you testify behind closed doors these days in Washington, you don't have to worry about things going public. Joining me tonight to discuss Comey's upcoming closed-door testimony and the surefire revelations that will come in the transcript, former federal prosecutor Sidney Powell, author of the book License to Lie, Exposing Corruption in the Department of Justice. Sidney, good to have you with us. Let's start with the Comey deal. What's going on with this man? Who cares what he wants? What is the deal?
I don't think we have to worry about protecting Mr. Comey's rights. He seems to be extraordinarily well protected by almost all of Washington. He can take care of himself.
Yeah, and the idea, though, that the Congress would get engaged in this thing, sort of the art of the deal, if you will, on the cheap. I mean, I don't get it. Help me out.
I don't either. I am glad, though, that they're doing it behind closed doors. I think that will eliminate some of the grandstanding, both by Mr. Comey and by assorted members of Congress. And releasing it the next day that's the best way to proceed with that, I think. So we'll all get to read it, but it will cut down on some of the histrionics and drama of the proceedings themselves and hopefully make it more efficient and productive for everybody.
I don't know what took so long. Why did it take the Republicans so long to insist on Comey's testimony? Is there in the, it's not even the twilight, it's the 11th hour in the 50th minute of Republican power over the House of Representatives?
I have no idea. We should have had it ages ago.
And so as we watch the Republicans go into the sunset here, what are we going to miss with Nancy Pelosi?
It's going to be a circus, Lou, an absolute circus. We're going to see just more and more histrionics and drama by the Democrats. The president is just going to be under increasing pressure from all of the baloney that they're going to be throwing at him. I'm sure he is preparing a strong offense in return and will go on offense instead of defense as well he should. The Mueller investigation needs to be done and over. It's absolutely ridiculous. He's assembled, instead of a team of angry Democrats, it's really a hit squad that's targeting people instead of seeking out crimes. They're targeting individuals.
You know, I just wonder about this younger generation of Americans that are watching this. They're going to think it is perfectly all right. It is traditional. It is unsurprising to have one party viciously assault the other, the President of the United States, and attempt to subvert him. #resistance. This is ignorance we've never seen its like in history. The national left-wing media in complicit coordination with the left in this country, the radical Dems, assaulting a president. Will we ever, in your judgment, recover? Our court system is already sullied. Its political divisions already established. It is politically corrupt as any department of the federal government. Is it recoverable?
I think it is recoverable, Lou, but it's going to take the appointment of a new attorney general that's ready, willing, and able to clean house in the Department of Justice and to prosecute the people who committed the real crimes here. I mean, for at least 3 years now, we've had serious crimes committed by the Democrats, both in the Hillary Clinton email scandal and then the cover-up of that, and the lengths they've gone to try to frame this president, and then commit the FISA warrant application abuses, the conduct of Peter Strzok and
I don't hear
Lisa
a lot of
Page.
hope in your voice that any of that will happen.
I wish I had more hope. It's got to happen, or we're not going to have any trust in the Department of Justice.
Well, no, we
this
shouldn't have any
conduct
trust
needs
in
to
the
be
Department of
exposed.
Justice. There's no, that to me is inarguable. There is no way that any American should trust this Justice Department until it's cleaned up. No one should trust
Exactly.
this FBI until it's cleaned up. And it's a hell of a long way from either of those realities. Sidney Powell, always good to see you. Thanks so much. Appreciate it.
Thank you, Lou.
Up next, conservative author Jerome Corsi filing an ethics complaint against special counsel Robert Mueller with the Justice Department. We take that up and more. Dan Bongino joins us here next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Conservative author and Jerome Corsi filing a criminal and ethics complaint against special counsel Robert Mueller today. This comes after Corsi's alleged ties to former Trump campaign advisor Roger Stone and WikiLeaks founder Julian Assange became the forefront of the special counsel's probe. Last week, Corsi told us he would never lie before a federal judge in order to target the president.
Well, if I have to die in jail over this to get the point across to the American people that this is not the standard of justice in America I grew up with, I'll die in jail. I will not swear before a judge to a lie.
Jerome Corsi taking the battle against a special counsel to a formal Justice Department complaint, ethics and criminal complaint. Joining me now to take up Mueller's witch hunt and his efforts to turn witnesses against this president, Dan Bongino, former Secret Service agent, author of the book Spygate, The Attempted Sabotage of Donald J. Trump. We urge you to buy the book and read it as soon as you can. Dan, good to see you. Good to see you. First, the issue with Corsi. He says that this flat out, he was being blackmailed for the special counsel trying to force him to commit perjury against the President of the United States.
Well, Lou, listen, prosecutors at the federal level, Bob Mueller or whoever it may be, trying to push witnesses into testifying to something is nothing new. Here's the problem here, Lou. What are they trying to get them to testify to? Nobody. Do you understand, Lou, that nobody has pled guilty to the actual conspiracy charge yet? In other words, what the Democrats and the liberal media and the swamp rat types, the rodents in D.C. in this swamp, have been telling us for months is there's this big collusion conspiracy out there between Trump and the Russians to impact the election, right? We all agree that that's out there, right? Nobody's pled guilty to the conspiracy charge. I mean, people get arrested for things all the time. When is the prosecutor, Bob Mueller, going to get someone who actually has some knowledge of this collusion thing he's talking about?
When are the American people going to wise up to one central fact? That the Republican Party is working as hard against this president as the Democratic Party. Otherwise, this thing would be over. If McConnell and Ryan had stood up and said, it's over, it would be over. It is stunning to me to watch what this country is tolerating in the name of partisan politics. It is disgusting. It's appalling. And there is going to be hell to pay because there will be payback. Don't you agree?
Lou, yeah, of course. Not just are the Republicans a jellyfish-like spineless group of amoebas on this, in the fact that they won't hold Mueller's the most powerful man in America right now, Lou.
Oh, yeah.
He has no oversight at all. The president's subjected to a potential impeachment by the Constitution. We can have judges removed. Congressmen and women can be voted out of office. What, Bob Mueller, nobody cares. Jeff Flake loves him. The swamp loves him. The Democrats think he's the greatest thing ever. The media celebrates this guy. This guy's conducting the biggest scam in modern American history. This witch hunt, nonsensical garbage investigation into a conspiracy that doesn't exist. This is the first conspiracy case I've seen, analyzing this as a former federal agent, where nobody actually pleads guilty to the actual conspiracy. We're going to have people pleading guilty to jaywalking next. I mean, this is unbelievable. And people are falling for it. And Lou, one more thing. Republicans were involved also in this scheme to target Trump, not just covering for Mueller. Right. I'm not a big book plug or anything, but it's pretty detailed, laid out in my book and Greg Jarrett's and others. The Republicans are involved in this too.
Oh, absolutely. That's why. Well, that's why I said this thing would be over. If the leadership of the Republican Party had any guts and any principles whatsoever.
No, they don't.
But we know
the Democrats, if this was them, Lou, if this shoe was on the other foot, the Democrats, well, listen, I am no fan of liberal ideology, you know that. But the Democrats would have shut this thing down 6 months ago, knowing there's no there there. Nope, the Republicans just let it go. Biggest scam in American history.
When you look at how did you style them? Spineless amoebas. The fact is,
yeah, jellyfish.
the Republican Party, there's very good likelihood that Robert Mueller will still be in the office of the special counsel a decade from now, unless somebody takes action. Sure. Dan, great to have you with us as always. Dan Bongino.
Always good to see you. Thanks.
Good to see you. Thanks. Up next, President Trump wants to send his legal bills to someone who sued him. We'll tell you who and what his odds are of getting paid. Former Congressman Jason Chaffetz with us next. Stay with us. We'll be right back. Attorneys for President Trump today arguing that Stormy Daniels should pay $340,000 in the president's legal bills. The attorneys arguing that bill due to gamesmanship and aggressive tactics by her attorney, Michael Avenatti. In October, a district judge ruled the president is entitled to those legal fees. Joining me now, Jason Chaffetz, former Republican congressman from Utah, Fox Business contributor, the author of The Deep State, How an Army of Bureaucrats Protected Barack Obama and is Working to Destroy the Trump Agenda. Great to have you with us, and
thanks, Lou.
Good to see you. Let's start with the president on trade with the Chinese. It concerns me, even though there's some reason to expect that the president can work out successfully a deal. There's no mention of the theft of U.S. intellectual property and technology, which is, of course, amounts to hundreds of billions of dollars a year. What do you see as the prospects here?
Well, I think the president has taken a tough line on putting in America first. I think the world has awoken to the fact that what Donald Trump says he actually means. I see the announcement happening at the G20 as a huge win for the United States, opening up the market even more for automakers, making other progress for agricultural societies. I was with the Illinois Farm Bureau over the weekend. This is, I think they would have to agree that this is a great, good thing for the United States, but there is a lot more to get our balance in line with China, particularly, as you mentioned, with the intellectual property theft and the ability of the American companies to go after the Chinese when they steal that intellectual property.
Well, you know how much the Chinese right now are worried about us. The trade deficit has risen to record highs in the first 9 months of this year. Yeah. Never before at this level, despite the president's efforts to balance trade between our two countries. Intellectual intellectual property theft and technology theft by the Chinese, they're stealing with both hands, nonstop throughout, and we're doing nothing to stop it. Now, whether that's because we can't or perhaps because we've chosen not to, either way, the answer is awful, and we've got to change it now.
No, absolutely. Look, the Chinese require you, when you want to do business in China, to basically hand over your blueprints to whatever it is that you're doing. You don't have that happen in other countries. The market's so big, it's so enticing. But I also think American companies have to resist and push back and say,
you gotta be kidding.
We want to do business there, but we're not going to allow you. A lot of these companies will willingly give this information. Some is stolen, no doubt, but some of it is given there. And then there has to be a court system within the Chinese realm to be able to make sure that
if we get to a Chinese court, Jason, you know this as well as I do. Yeah. If it gets to a Chinese court, the answer is already in. Yeah. We watch it, whether it's Boeing, whatever it is, assembling entire components of an aircraft in China, because that's the condition preceding to any deal. The forced transfer of technology is astonishing. And when you are right now, as this country, this government is, save the president, the Congress and the Senate, they're bought and paid for by, and you know this, the Chamber of Commerce, the Business Roundtable, the Koch brothers, and Wall Street. Am I wrong?
Well, they have a huge influence. You know, one thing, Lou, that most people don't realize, 100%, by law, 100% of the goods coming into this country are supposed to be inspected. Less than 2% are actually inspected. And my guess, and by the way, I've been to these Chinese ports. They do not allow our Customs and Border Patrol to inspect these goods before they get onto the ship. Other countries like South Korea, they do it. You go to Busan, they do it. You go to China, they don't let the thing. I think Donald Trump, over the course of his presidency, can dramatically improve.
You know what? With the Dems and the Republicans both fighting him every bit of the way. This man is fighting, as you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and he hasn't got a hell of a lot of people on his side who are in that swamp. They're too busy gorging themselves on the public trough, gorging themselves on lobbyist money, and being bought wholesale by K Street and Wall Street.
Republicans have got to get the president the wall money. That is inexcusable. It's a national
$5 billion or
embarrassment that they have
$25
not.
billion, Jason?
Well, they should give him the $25 billion,
Yes,
but
they should.
let's at least give him the $5 billion. We're going to spend $4 trillion in the next 12 months. $4 trillion. You can't find $5 billion? Come on, it's there.
Yeah, it is there, and there is no doubt that it will still be there, going to another enterprise more favored by the Koch brothers than that wall along our southern border. Oh, by the way, don't you think it's amusing that part of the condition to get into a discussion about our trade deal is that the Chinese would have to define fentanyl, the most deadly opiate in the world that is being shipped to us from China, define it as a controlled substance, not stop it, not end it, not put in prison those who produce it and distribute it, but just define it as a controlled
Just
substance.
recognize, exactly.
Do you think it's
That's why they've got to go, and they've got to make sure that anything that is coming into the United States is inspected, because right now it's less than 2%.
You know, what a novel idea. Border security, port security.
It's already the law. It's
Whoa.
already the law.
Yes, not so much as law. We don't need to worry about laws. Think about it, illegal immigration. We got laws against that, too. We've got all sorts of laws. We've only got one man who wants to enforce them, and he's getting killed by the establishment. Jason Chaffetz, good to see you. Thanks so
Lou.
much. Up next, our viewers weigh in on the out-of-control Mueller witch hunt, what you had to say about lawsuits filed against the special counsel. Stay with us. We'll be right back.
The thing, I think Donald Trump, over the course of his presidency, can dramatically improve.
You know what? With the Dems and the Republicans both fighting him every bit of the way, this man is fighting, as you know, 24 hours a day, 7 days a week, and he hasn't got a hell of a lot of people on his side who are in that swamp. They're too busy gorging themselves on the public trough, gorging themselves on lobbyist money, and being bought wholesale by K Street and Wall Street.
Republicans have got to get the president the wall money. That is inexcusable. It's a national
$5 billion or
embarrassment that they have
$25
not.
billion, Jason?
Well, they should give him the $25 billion,
Yes,
but
they should.
at least give him the $5 billion. We're going to spend $4 trillion in the next 12 months. $4 trillion. You can't find $5 billion? Come on, it's there.
Yeah, it is there, and there is no doubt that it will still be there, going to another enterprise more favored by the Koch brothers than that wall along our southern border. Oh, by the way, don't you think it's amusing that part of the condition to get into a discussion about our trade deal is that the Chinese would have to define fentanyl, the most deadly opiate in the world that is being shipped to us from China, define it as a controlled substance, not stop it, not end it, not put in prison those who produce it and distribute it, but just define it as a controlled
Just
substance.
recognize, exactly.
Do you think it's
That's why they've got to go, and they've got to make sure that anything that is coming into the United States is inspected, because right now it's less than 2%.
You know, what a novel idea. Border security, port security.
It's already the law. It's
Whoa.
already the law.
Yes, not so much as law. We don't need to worry about laws. Think about it, illegal immigration. We got laws against that, too. We've got all sorts of laws. We've only got one man who wants to enforce them, and he's getting killed by the establishment. Jason Chaffetz, good to see you. Thanks so
Lou.
much. Up next, our viewers weigh in on the out-of-control Mueller witch hunt, what you had to say about lawsuits filed against the special counsel. Stay with us. We'll be right back.